Lamar Jackson did not practice on Wednesday, and while you may want to freak out, I get it. Let's not jump into conclusions just quite yet.
And I'm Qadry Ismail. Wow, one more game to 500. The Cleveland Browns, they're up next.
And I'm Kevin Oestreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. And a move from Eric DeCosta at the trade deadline is now being seen under new light as Jaire Alexander announced a big update. And we'll talk about what that means and so much more coming up on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.
Rise and shine. It's the Ravens Squad. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
What's going on, Ravens flock? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. This is Sam Njoku, joined as always with Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail. The Ravens and Browns will get set into play in a few days, but that doesn't mean we don't have time to talk a little Ravens football in regards to some practice notes, including some injuries to our most beloved player on the football field. We'll touch on that. We'll touch on Jaire Alexander. He was recently traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. There's news about his potential retirement, taking a step away from football. We'll touch on that. And then, of course, Ravens versus Browns, second meeting between these two teams. The Ravens play 5 games. 5 of their last 8 games are against division foes. So must-win games, as usual. Nothing new for the Ravens, but we will certainly see what happens in that contest. I want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The Ravens got on practice field on Wednesday, and we used to, last week at least, no players were missing. Everybody was accounted for. This week, not so much. We had Marlon Humphrey, who, as we've already talked about earlier, dealt with the finger issue. Seems like he's going to miss this game. Jay Higgins not in the game, and of course, Lamar Jackson, number 8, missing in action from the practice field on Wednesday. Everybody is in a tizzy. Of course, John Harbaugh later on said that it's about knee soreness. He should be able to be practicing for this team on Thursday to get set for this Browns matchup. We've heard that before from John Harbaugh, so a little bit of trepidation among the Ravens fandom. Q, I'm not sure if you were at the practice facility here on Wednesday, but give me your thoughts about this matchup between, not the matchup, give me your thoughts on the missing in action guy that is Lamar Jackson.
So, in full disclosure, no, I wasn't at the facility today, but I did get a chance to talk with my colleagues and obviously looked at the John Harbaugh presser. And I think for John, he was a little bit more close to the vest with his responses, with everything, and not just Lamar, but I think he realizes, and I'm recognizing, I've been saying that they need to get to 500 before you can even really have any significant conversation with playoffs or we're back and all the other things. Get to 500. Also the road to the playoffs, especially the way the AFC is playing out, it's going to be through your division, as in division winner, not second place guy. That second place finisher, boy, it just doesn't look that good. So with that said, John, when he talked about Lamar, it was one of those situations where it was like, yeah, Lamar got a little something unrelated to the hamstring. It's with his knee. But you know what? Hey, this time of year, everybody got something. So we're just going to leave it at that and let it be. He kind of just, try to squash it. But for us, we know there is no squashing because he's Lamar Jackson. And we recognize the power of what Lamar has meant to this squad in getting back to 500 and that journey from that 1-5 to now looking like they can get a consecutive 4-game win streak. And so we'll see how it is tomorrow when the injury report comes out and see whether or not it is a situation where Lamar Jackson has something serious with the knee. Interesting because a lot of his hits were relatively, I'm going to say clean hits, no true NFL hit is a clean hit, but it wasn't like, oh my God. The only one that I really was like, whoa, was when he tried to get it into the end zone and the Vikings corner, their number 2, he did just an unreal job of holding him out from the end zone because he had Isaiah Likely literally pancaking him. he manages to get up off of that. Then I believe it was Derrick Henry, I think it was, or either Derrick Henry or Ronnie Stanley, one of the two. But regardless, he was able to get up and get in the way and interfere with Lamar getting into the end zone. And I think that's where it looked to me like, ooh, could have been something where Lamar could have had a possible bruise on the knee.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever Lamar misses practice, it's going to be a storyline. And, I can't pinpoint, and I don't know if there was that play like you talked about, Q, that was the one. But, Lamar has taken a couple of really big hits this year. And, obviously a lot of this comes down to, in terms of his status. I mean, if he does practice tomorrow, I'm not worried. He'll play. But Lamar also doesn't need to practice to play necessarily. I mean, if he has to take a couple rest days, get the knee right, then that's all right. And, guys are dealing with stuff all the time during football season, Q. I know you know that. Whereas, like we've talked about it, no one's healthy 100%. During the year, you're always going to try to work through something. But I think that, kind of like what we've been talking about, it's like, well, haven't we heard John Harbaugh say Lamar's going to be all right? And then he misses the rest of the season. Hasn't that happened before? Didn't we just go through a practice situation with Lamar Jackson that resulted in some money being taken out of the Ravens' pocket and, a lot of other controversy? So again, this, to me, like without knowing anything, this feels like it's not a big deal. But then again, I felt that way a couple of years ago, and then all of a sudden it became a big deal. So I'm not going to outright say it's not, because I don't know if it is or not. But something definitely to monitor. And you just hope that it is just generally soreness and not anything that's deeper than that could potentially have long-term impacts on how he plays. I mean, we talked on Sunday after the game about Rashad Bateman, and you outlined it great how, the player Bateman is, and, ankle, and how the player uses a certain part of his body. For Lamar with, his legs, that's a big part of his game alongside his arm. So things you definitely want to just keep an eye out on, but just got to remain hopefully practices tomorrow. And that's the end of the story there, it feels like.
Yeah, I would be very interesting. You mentioned if he doesn't practice on Thursday, does your worry increase, or are you still, he's going to play regardless if he takes another day off? What are your thoughts, Kev?
Yeah, I think so. If he doesn't practice Thursday, the worry would go up for me, but it wouldn't reach like panic level 10 unless he doesn't practice Friday too. Like, and then you get that like questionable tag probably on Friday if he doesn't practice the whole week. Then you're like, all right, what's going on here? If he doesn't practice Thursday, it would still like raise some alarm bells, and I'm like, okay, like we're kind of teetering on the edge of I don't know how to feel right now. But then if you get to Friday and he's not practicing, then I'm like, all right, sky's falling. What's going on? What's happening here? So that's where I'd be.
I'm a little skyfall if it's not tomorrow. I mean, I'm all about rhythm, timing. I'm all about getting my first team guy in there with the other first team guys. I'm all about like chemistry and just continuity. I think that was part of the reason why they played so well on a short week down in Miami, why they were able to, look good versus the Vikings. They didn't look great. I'm sure Mark Andrews, as well as Isaiah, will tell you that, dang it, they should have had those 2 catches in the very beginning of the first quarter. But, when it comes down to it, I just think bigger picture wise, yeah, I like the fact that Lamar would be out there for Thursday, and I would be like, oh boy, he ain't out there, what? And then, yes, I am full-blown panicking if he doesn't get out there and play, or practice, I should say, for Friday, because then that's where it would become questionable again. Where is he at? And then what is the game plan as far as reps when it comes to Snoop Huntley, and whether or not Tyler is he feeling good about the game plan? Is the game plan catered to him? What does it look like? So that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And this defense that they're facing in the Browns, it's not nothing to sneeze at here. So that's something that, got to be on your P's and Q's against Myles Garrett and company. Even if he practices on a limited basis, I'm still going to be, kind of sky is falling a little bit, because I want him to practice fully. Those reps matter. I think, Friday is probably more along the lines of a glorified walkthrough anyway in some aspects. I don't know. It's just going to make me a little nervous. Every game counts. the squeamishness will get to me. But I think for now, I'm going to do what Kevin is saying. Treat this as a nothing burger until it's something. Let's wait till Thursday. Let's not freak out. Some guy that's already been ruled out, Marlon Humphrey, saw that finger wrapped up pretty well. I think it affected his tackle a little bit during that Vikings game. He had a pin put on his finger. He's out for this contest. Not sure if he's going to play next week against the Jets either. But what are your thoughts about this Ravens team having to play without their starting cornerback and Marlon Humphrey? Q, do you think that they can survive without, they don't have to face Jamar Chase this week or, a guy like Justin Jefferson like they did this past week? Do you think they'll still suffer a little bit without him on the football field?
They got Njoku and they got Judy. And I think both guys can be a problem to an opposing team, but you don't necessarily have to worry about Marlon locking it up with tight end. I think at the same time, when it comes to Jerry Jeudy, I feel good about Nate Wiggins and that matchup. If it is a situation where he travels to guard him. And so I don't, take anyone lightly. This is the NFL. You're in the league for a reason. So with that said, I appreciate the fact that it isn't T. Higgins and Jamar Chase that they have to go up against. But I do like the matchups, just the pure matchups. You still got to compete, but the pure matchups of what the Ravens have while you look at Marlon kind of resting up and getting himself right.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens should be able to win this game without Marlon in there. With the guys that they have, with, Q talked about it, with like the lack of weapons the Browns have. Not that they don't have anybody, I think Njoku and Judy, yeah, for sure. Guys you got to watch out for. Harold Fannin, their rookie tight end also, that they run that offense through their tight ends, that passing offense at least. So those are two guys that you're going to have to watch out for. But, you have enough to match up with Cleveland. It'd be a shock. I'm not going to say it's impossible because nothing is impossible in the NFL, but it'd be a shock if, Marlon being out. And again, like, I think if there was, because clearly something was off with the finger and like it was clearly impacting him in some way, shape, or form. If he has to miss, because I know Harbaugh said like anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. So if it is the next 2 weeks, these are the 2 weeks you want to miss in the Browns and the Jets. I feel the most confident in those two games being won without Marlon Humphrey than, against the Bengals team that Marlon has certainly struggled against at times, but so was the entire Ravens defense. But Marlon being out there, that would help them, despite how I know, it's not been that all pro Marlowe type year, but Marlowe has still had moments this season. He also has had some not so great moments, but still, like, he's been fine. He hasn't been the horrendous player, that I think injuries caused him to be a couple years ago. And that was a lot due to injuries, but he's also not like the best corner or one of the best in the league, like we have seen him be during certain seasons. So Marlon helps them still. I still believe in that. Contractually, it's a different conversation in terms of what happens with him after this season. There are a couple of guys who can look in that conversation too, but we're still focused on this season, Q. I know what we're talking about here. I know what we're doing. By the way, I do want to make sure I get this in, that I have something that I need to talk to Q about, Sam. So whenever there's a break in like a good transition point, I have to ask him one question because there's something that I saw on social media that directly relates to him, and I need to ask him about it. So I just want to put it out here now that at some point, can you please direct it to me so I can ask you a question? I just want to put it out there.
No time like the present, buddy. Go for it.
Well, we got to go to a break.
So you want? Okay, I got you. I see where this is coming. After the break, we're going to talk about this.
Okay,
there
all
you
right,
go.
all right.
I like it. Let's go ahead and take that break. I think Q kind of has an idea of where you're going with this, but we're going to take a break. Oh, you don't have an idea? This is even better. I can't wait.
I'm excited.
Oh, this is good. Yes. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, guys. When we come back, we'll touch on what Kevin is talking about in terms of Q, and then we'll get on a little bit more with the injuries that the Ravens are dealing with here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. This season, it's so important to reach out and check in with friends, family, or even yourself. Just like checking on a teammate or reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while can lift your spirits, reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes the first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. BetterHelp matches you with the therapist who fits your needs, and you can switch anytime if it's not the right match. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself. BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon, because taking that step forward support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? Okay, we're back here, Locked On Ravens Squad Show. We're here twice a week, Wednesdays, and after every single Ravens contest. The next one up after this show will be on Sunday following that Ravens-Cleveland Browns game. Whew. Division matchup, second one for the season for the Browns, for the Ravens. So very excited about that. We'll be getting on to the rest of the injuries. Kevin did have something that he wanted to talk to Q about.
Yes.
Super excited to hear it. Can't wait to laugh my butt off because I know it's going to be good. Go ahead, Kevin. Take it away.
Well, it's nothing bad, Q. I just want to give you a chance to respond to something. I don't know if you saw it. I'm assuming based off your reaction, you haven't yet. On social media, there's this account called Football's Greatest Moments that put out a video of Ray Lewis, your former teammate, that said Ray Lewis really is one of the most intimidating athletes of all time. And, that's not a controversial statement or anything, right? I think everybody agrees with that. Well, Jimmy Smith, not Ravens Jimmy Smith, Jaguars Jimmy Smith, he responded to this and said, blah, blah, blah. We used to kick that butt on the regular. And then talked a lot, because then all Ravens Twitter and Ravens fans found it, and everyone say, "Who are you? I forgot." He was putting out all these stats about how his 2000, he had 291 yards or something in that game against the Ravens, and he was responding to all these fans and talking about how he made the Pro Bowl for 5 straight years off the Ravens defense, some fighting words here from Jimmy Smith. I want to give, because you obviously were a part of that 2000s team and a part of that Ravens organization, and you were a part of games that Jimmy Smith was a part of. You and I have talked about Jimmy Smith before. Do you have a response to Jimmy Smith? Because he was pulling no punches here, talking about Ray Lewis and that Ravens team.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to tell you this, there are times where you would try to respond back and be all cool and make some kind of awesome statement. But when you get cooked for 291 yards, I'm going to tell you this. Number one, there's nothing really I can say because I think he's a Hall of Fame caliber player, and it's a crime that he's not in the Hall of Fame already. One. Number two, that dude is a bad man. I mean, speed for days, and he would run these comeback routes, getting out of his breaks. Him and Keenan McCardell would be killing fools. And yes, they were tough to go up against. They were Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but they won more than Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They just never really got a chance to win the chip like we did. Jimmy, where's your ring at? Yeah, but I mean, bigger picture wise, they were a thorn in our side. And rivalry, anybody worth their weight in salt would recognize that it wasn't about the Steelers. It was that AFC Central. It was the Ravens, Titans, Ravens, Jags, and then somewhere along the line, it was the Ravens, Steelers. But the back and forth was intense. So I don't think, Ray necessarily needs to worry about his cred being challenged or whatever, just because of the fact that, I don't recall Jimmy, going up against Ray like you saw with the Jerome Bettis or Eddie George, Corey Dillon. Those guys, none of them could talk because our defense held them collectively. The entire gosh doggone league, but the AFC Central had a murderer's row of running backs, even Fred Taylor. So they collectively held them under 1,000 yards. But Jimmy, he could talk. You can't say anything about AJ Brown. You can't say anything about T. Higgins or Jamar Chase. Those are certain people, unfortunately, are Raven killers, and Jimmy Smith is one of them. Mother of pearl. You can throw Hines Ward in there a little bit too if you want to go receiver and all that. The running backs, just quiet. You can't say anything. But dang it, those gosh doggone receivers, mother of pearl. Like frustration abounds. You just had to go ahead and poke the bear, Kevin. Now I got these flashbacks of Raven killers. Oh, AJ Green. I said AJ Brown. Look
AJ
at that.
Green,
I was wondering. I was like, I
it
think
threw
you
me
might
off.
mean
My
AJ
bad. My
Green.
bad. AJ Green.
Yeah.
Like AJ Green. You know, I'm in a Ravens broadcast booth. I'm retired. And he's just killing us. Like, why? Why bother? Why bother even getting covered? Who does that? Freaking Hines Ward. Oh my God. Like Troy Polamalu on defense.
Oh gosh.
Why?
AFC
We had the
Championship.
game won. We would have been in the freaking AFC Championship, but no. Gotta play the stupid Renegade song. Oh my goodness. I thought, man, Kyle Hamilton was still in college and Marlon Humphrey was in his prime, but played man-to-man against Jamar Chase. And now Kevin Oestreicher got me ranting and I can't stop. I can't.
I had to know if you had seen it or not. I had to know.
Dwayne Starks. He smoked us. Hello, Dwayne. Dwayne's my guy. That's my dude.
Dwayne.
Oh my goodness. I'm verklempt right now.
Verklempt.
I'm just gonna read the things in the chat and no purple pill, Corey. Fred Taylor, he didn't work us as bad as Jimmy did. Fred Taylor, we can't say it because he was a part of the AFC Central collective of running backs, the Murderers Row. Corey Dillon was up in that mug too. I don't even know who the Cleveland Browns dudes were, but 1,000 yards collectively they didn't get. Okay? All right. But Jimmy, mother of pearl, just come on, guys. Let's do another subject or topic. I got my flashes now.
I'm sorry.
PTSD.
Okay, let's do it.
Sam, you gotta move on.
I'm sorry, Kevin. You did this. That's hilarious.
I did do this.
He did. He's getting me back. He's getting me back for doggone saying that Keaton Mitchell is his modern day. Who's your boy?
Devonta Freeman. Yep, we talked about that last night.
Oh, I feel better now that
Hilarious. Okay, let's move on. Let's get back to it. But yeah, hilarious. Shout out to Jimmy Smith. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I agree with you, Q. But yeah, he definitely gave us some work in the early 2000s because that Jaguars Ravens rivalry was something. Yep. AFC Central, for you guys too young to remember, was a division before the separation into the AFC North and South. It used to be the Central, boy. That was a different division. I think it was 5 or 6 teams in the division. Man, that was something.
You had to play in that division, bro. I mean, there were just every game was a rival game. I mean, goodness gracious, you knew you were a legit team when you beat the Jags, and when we beat the Jags here at home, I think that validated our ascension into the upper tier. Unfortunately, that's when I had, my MCL injury, but Travis Taylor, Shannon Sharp, they all stood tall and my God, man. But the Titans, like those games were just epic showdowns of just craziness. Like, you hate them, they hate you, and you just getting at it. That was, Vandor says, what happened to AJ Green? I think he went to Arizona Cardinals. I think he had some little bit knick-knack injuries that would kind of hold him back. I wish it had held him back against the Ravens, but it never did.
Never did.
But once he went to the Cardinals, you could just see that he wasn't the upper tier dominant dog that just alpha. He wasn't that guy any longer.
Yeah. Good times. All right, well, let's talk about another receiver. Well, not good times if you're a Ravens fan.
Not good
Not at
times.
Yeah, no.
One more receiver to talk about,
Ugh.
Rashad Bateman, somebody who has that potential to potentially be a guy like AJ Green maybe in his best day. He's dealing with a high ankle sprain. We saw him in the walking boot after the game against the Vikings. Looks like he's going to be out for this contest based on what we're hearing from various reports. Q, do you think that, with his loss, how will it affect the offense, one? And two, can we see more of a Tez Walker, more of a DeAndre Hopkins in this contest against the Browns? Or do you think that it'll just be more, 3 tight end looks with Charlie Kolar, Isaiah Likely, and Mark Andrews?
I think if we look at the tape and see how things progress, you could easily see the 3 tight end look just to kind of give a different package to thwart the efforts of one Myles Garrett. At the same time, you do have the luxury of a Tez Walker who's been inactive for a couple of straight games now. And a lot of that's just because, when Keaton Mitchell gets up there, now all of a sudden he's a gunner and they're using him. Rasheen Ali, he's kind of been relegated to the inactive list or not playing at all as well. I think at the same time, you look at, Tylan Wallace, you look at, like you're saying, D-Hop. There are some guys that can, I wouldn't say replace, but can do more than enough to hold it down while, Bateman gets rested up off the high ankle sprain. And I believe Todd Monken is good enough to have a variety of guys roll through without it necessarily just being a 3 tight end only. But I can see where it would be the majority, especially for this particular game with Myles Garrett. I could see it where, they would want to get a little bit extra beef in there and, bring in that big heavy and then just have Zay Flowers out there.
Yeah, I would say they're probably going to roll with more 3 tight ends, but I do want to see Tez play. Like I want to see Tez get opportunities, and I think that D-Hop already is in a very specific role. It's almost like in the NBA sometimes when a team doesn't want to mess up their bench when a starter's out, so they play like some lower level non-rotation guys, the starter, and then they keep their bench intact. I know that because I'm a Nuggets fan and they do that. So for me, it's like D-Hop is already very in his role, and I'm not saying don't give D-Hop an increase of snaps. Like, definitely, I want to see D-Hop out there a little bit more. But I also don't think the Ravens necessarily want to all of a sudden have him become like a 95% snap player at this point in his career. They want to have him play a specific role for them. He's done a really good job of doing that. But, Tylan as well, like, for those guys, I feel like this is a big opportunity for them. Also, getting the running backs involved out of the backfield, I think could be really interesting too. Derrick Henry on some screen passes that don't involve Daniel Falele blocking a guy into him. I think that'd be pretty fun to watch. Keaton Mitchell in those opportunities could be a really solid asset as well. So I think that, look, again, if Bateman has to miss, I don't know, let's just say the next 2 games against the Jets and the Browns, or Browns and Jets, those are games you still should be able to win. Now, the Browns defense is a lot scarier than the Browns offense. But even still, the way that Zay's playing, Zay's playing, he's at a Pro Bowl level right now, in my opinion, in terms of how he's playing right now. He's incredible. And while Bateman is an important part of their offense, he also hasn't really had a strong start to the season on the stat sheet. I still think he's very valuable in what he does, and teams have to pay attention to him. It goes beyond the box score with him. But even still, it's not like they're losing Zay right now, who is essentially the hub of that passing offense, and it's not particularly close. I think that you can put guys in to replace Bateman, have it work out for you, and be okay, because these aren't necessarily season-ending injuries. At least that's not the messaging we're getting here from the team. So I think they'll be okay. It's definitely a loss, but they're going to have to find a way to win without him. And I think, honestly, for me, if they can show me that they can win with heavy personnel, and I'm not just talking about like tight ends running routes, which they have done, that's not the issue, but if they can win up front with their heavy personnel and keep that in there and still work the pass off of that and show me that guys don't get blown off the ball as easily as they have been this season, and you can work your pass game off of that, it opens up so much for you. So maybe it'll actually help Baltimore gain a little more confidence in those heavy sets if they decide to go to a more because Bateman's out.
Yeah, for sure.
I think interestingly enough with Bateman, I would not try to force it back because of the style of cutting he does. That could put a lot of pressure on that high ankle sprain. And if you feel you're going to make a run in the playoffs, you want to be like healthy, ready to go, and not necessarily gimping. So I would definitely be conservative with the recovery.
I agree. I think we need to be careful with it. We're going to need him later on in the season. Not push it. Let's get him healthy. You got 2 games here where, offensive output shouldn't be necessary to a high degree. But, again, you mentioned it anytime, anywhere, any place in the National Football League. But, yeah, there's some guys. I do want to see Tez Walker. I agree with you, Kevin. Dre Dog 679 mentioned it. We've seen Bateman's ceiling. Tez's ceiling is much higher than Bateman's. It's a shame that Ravens, a.k.a. Harbaugh, refuses to play him. I don't know if the ceiling's as high as Bateman's, but he definitely has the speed that, you can't teach. And I think that, it's very similar to the Keaton Mitchell situation, especially because he was catching touchdowns left and right. And then, roster spots, special teams delegated him to kind of take a back seat. But yeah, I'd love to. This would be a great opportunity for Tez Walker, as you mentioned, Tylan Wallace, and others to get a shot to play some meaningful snaps here for the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll touch on Jaire Alexander, who's no longer a Raven, but he was just a Raven a few seconds ago, it felt like, and all of a sudden it seems like his time with the NFL is at risk. We'll touch on it a little bit and then get on to the Ravens versus Browns preview here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. We're back here at the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Again, we're available twice a week here, including after the Ravens-Browns game this upcoming Sunday. You can also catch the Locked On Ravens podcast with Kevin Oestreicher 5 days a week and other days in the weekends, depending on the news. Again, we've been getting loads of news here for the Ravens, so do not be surprised if you get an episode here on Saturday or Sunday with Kevin talking Ravens football. You get your Ravens action here at the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, as well as the Locked On Ravens podcast. So definitely come here if you want to get your Ravens news, a great source of news and entertainment, in my opinion. You just saw with Q's hilarious rant regarding Jimmy Smith and the A.J. Green saga with the Baltimore Ravens, where a lot of Ravens fans know very well. But let's get on it. Jaire Alexander recently traded to the Philadelphia Eagles after forgettable stint here in Baltimore. We were always wondering whether or not this was due to other players having success on the team, injuries, a little bit of both, maybe being acclimated to the team wasn't working out. Regardless, we kind of got an idea after he was inactivated prior to the Packers game where he would get a chance to play against his former team. A little while after that contest, we found out that Jaire Alexander was going to take a brief stint away from football. He was going to step away, and he says it's due to both his physicalness and his mental capacity that he's dealing with. The knee injury is tough, and then not playing this season must be tough as well. Kevin, what are your thoughts about it, considering you and I were both very excited to have Jaire on this team, but it seems like that knee injury is still lingering for him?
Yeah, it's hard not to feel bad for him. I do feel for him. And, I think part of it is the fact that just a couple of years ago, probably even less than a couple of years ago, Jaire was on top of the world as one of the best corners in the league and highly regarded, and a guy that everybody wanted on their team, and someone that was going out there week in and week out and performing at such a high level. But the thing with him has always been the injuries, and to kind of see him miss all the time that he has and did last season, and he coming into this year and going through what he has gone through. I mean, obviously I can't speak on it from a player perspective because I've never played a sport professionally, but I'm sure it takes a really big toll on you when, you're in that mode of like, hey, look at me go. Like, doing all this, and then all of a sudden it's like you either can't get out there because you're not healthy, or the injuries slow you down, or whatever it may be. So like, credit to him for understanding that he doesn't feel right, physically, mentally, whatever it is for him, and taking that step to, fully evaluate his future, because I think that, that's what he needs to do. He identified it. And I think that, that's something that is important to do when, you don't really know what your next steps are, or, you're not feeling your best. And I hope he is able to come back and be successful, and, have an opportunity to play for the Eagles or wherever, and still make a high impact. I wish it was here in Baltimore, but, obviously it didn't work out for him. And we heard him talk when he was first doing his media availability for Philadelphia, and he was like, no, I feel good. It wasn't a physical thing. The Ravens just had corners they wanted to play ahead of me. And I think kind of everything he said was true, but then there was that added element. I mean, the trade went through, he passed, like the physical was passed, like everything happened. There's no chance of this thing being rescinded. I mean, he was going through like stuff with the Eagles. So something either must have popped up for him, or didn't feel right, or again, I don't know. We don't have any information, at least at the time of this recording, on it. So tough situation all around. And I hope he's all right physically and mentally, and is able to, I guess, make peace with whatever comes next, whether that's him getting back on the field and maybe not being as high level of a player anymore, or whether he does decide to hang up his cleats and call it a career.
I have been in this situation. I also know, from a bigger picture standpoint, when I was in Indianapolis, my MCL sprained before we were playing actually the Eagles, and I got tackled and I had an MCL sprain again. So with that MCL sprain, kind of came a series of just like, my legs are feeling a little bit, and just running routes against guys that were practice squad guys that you should just win against. You weren't winning against as much. And then, like I said, I'm making excuses, but I was making excuses. Like I was like, whoa, bro. Oh, yeah, like, this ain't game day, homeboy. Don't be trying to jump the route. You already know I'm going to run an out route. Whereas before, I could care less if you jumped it, because it's going to make me work harder. But I was like, oh, hamstrings now. Come on. These hamstrings, they only got but so many. And that is the tale as old as time, that the elevator of talent is here and it's always rising. But then there's an elevator where Father Time. And so the talent is going down while Father Time is coming up. And when they meet in the middle, then you're on borrowed time. Because the moment your talent starts to go down and Father Time comes up and those knick-knack injuries start to linger, you got to start to consider, well, maybe I'm going to call it a day. Calling it a day back in my day is different than what you're calling it a day now, because of the more understanding of mental health awareness and having a better understanding just overall of like, these guys aren't a piece of meat. At least anyway, publicly, they're not a piece of meat, but privately, I'm sure, some GM or some owner is like, he's wasting my money. Yeah, okay, well, they're a human being. So I digress. Jaire is a human being. I appreciate the fact that he's trying to figure it out. And I appreciate the fact that, when he was here, he went through training camp, had the knee, act up on him, and it kind of re-aggravated, and again, didn't play well in the Bills game. Healthy scratches. Well, those healthy scratches turned into being traded. I know also what it feels like to be traded, and I will say, you get used to a place. You get used to being in Green Bay. You get used to the back and forth of going to the facility, all that. Then you get used to an understanding of what it's like to drive down to M&T Bank Stadium or drive over to the facility and practice at the Under Armour Performance Center. You get used to all those things, and now you got to get used to it all over again. Plus, you're not playing as well. And even though it's right up the road in Philly, takes a mental toll. And that's part of the bigger picture that you battle against.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being a professional athlete and going through that, especially when you're at the top of your game like he is. Having that happen to you is quite demoralizing. Well, I don't know. I mean, I wish the best for Jaire for sure. Hopefully he gets healthy. Hopefully he gets better. And Q, I know you're looking at this comment from Dre Dog 679. Great comment, Dre Dog. I'm going to put it up here. He said, "I love Q stories. Hey Q, would you ever consider writing a book? Call it something catchy like Q's Views to Life and Times of Qadry Ismail." What are your thoughts about that?
You gotta.
Well, then he goes Q's Views. Pause.
That's funny.
Honestly, it has been so. You think my stories are nothing compared to my brother's stories? My brother and we're on a group thread of our high school, Myers High School, and so there's a whole bunch of us old farts, bruh. My brother will break out in a story that is text thread thick about him. And so the Miami Hurricanes were playing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And he started talking about how back in the day, the convicts versus the Catholics, and how Lou Holtz was sitting there and they all went into the, after the pregame and forth, he was like, "Hey, listen, all you guys right now, I don't care what you do. You're going to be out there. You're going to be a professional. Anybody that's going to be out there and they're going to be fighting, they're going to be kicked off the team. That's not what we do for Notre Dame. Now, I don't care what you do. During the whistle, you keep it clean. After the whistle, you keep it clean. But once your game is over with, none of that matters. And you save Jimmy Johnson for me."
Oh man.
My brother told that story, and I mean, I'm cracking up because I've heard it before. But when he said it in our group thread, and I'm busting out laughing, and all the fellas just bringing on comments. He talked about Jerome Bettis, Hall of Fame Steelers running back, but also amazing running back for Notre Dame, probably College Football Hall of Fame as well. Anyway, Jerome on his recruiting trip, he was my brother. I think my brother was his recruiting host. Anyway, they were all just hanging out in whole nine yards. Well, he goes out with some dudes from Notre Dame out to Chicago, and I guess they got into some fights. And he was like, "Yo, all I know is JB, Jerome Bettis, JB, man, for a senior in high school, like he came out with us, bro. He can handle himself. He like threw down and had three dudes just sleeping, like whoa.
Wow.
And I mean, just the stories. But when we get together, like we reminisce and we'll just go into story mode like I just did.
Man, maybe you and your brother got to start a podcast.
Oh yeah.
You might have to now. You talk about all these stories. You go on for hours.
Oh man, bruh. Woo. They're legendary, but no. We got to stick to the Ravens and Devonta Freeman.
Hey, all right, we'll take that. We'll take
it. All right, let's go.
As long as we don't talk about doggone compensatory picks.
Oh,
you know what's coming eventually. I can't stop that. I talk about what's put out in front of me.
Jaire Alexander. Well, you know what? It was a value pick because now we traded him, and look what we got in return. Man, we trying to get to 500. No compensatory picks. Mother of pearl.
Mother of pearl, indeed. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk all about the Ravens Browns. We got a game on Sunday. Forgot all about that, but we'll touch on it, get our thoughts on keys to the game here
Dre
next.
Dog.
Dre Dog, good job, buddy. Next here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. All right, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, You can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Don't want to see just my face. Let's go. We got here the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Last segment of the day, Ravens Browns. We were talking about a chance for, as Q mentioned, to get to 500 after a 1-5 start. That would be a 4-game win streak. That would be monumental. We're going to lead with the assumption that Lamar Jackson is going to play and talk about what could happen in this contest. Now, last time the Ravens beat the Browns pretty handedly, score of 41-17. Joe Flacco was the quarterback then. Dylan Gabriel did come in for 3 snaps, 3 passes, and connecting on all those for 100 yards. So that's something, including a touchdown. Garbage time score, by the way, Browns fans, in case you want to hang your hat on that. So what are your expectations, Q, about this contest, especially with this offense going up against a defense led by Myles Garrett, who already has, I think based on Kevin's comment on Twitter, 1 more sack than the entire team combined for the Ravens?
Yeah, boy, we talked about it on our Locked On Ravens show. Kevin hosts every week. Oh, and he just busted out that stat just to get us to feel verklempt.
I actually
why?
miscalculated on the show we did last night. I said 11-11. I forgot to count in a sack, so it actually is. The Ravens do have 1 more sack than Myles Garrett. So
yeah,
you want to put that?
Oh, thank goodness! Great job, Travis Jones. Oh, thank goodness. See, all this compensatory pick, and he just forgot how to count up to 12.
I know. It takes a toll on you.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because when you look at the bigger picture of this rival, it technically comes down to they have a great defense, and can this offense overcome it? I think for what we've seen in the Lamar Jackson era, heck, we can go back to when I believe it was Tyler Huntley and was it his Bateman's rookie year? But they were always a really strong defense. And I remember at Cleveland, Bateman put on a show. Lamar went down, had Tyler comes in, and it was man to man, and it was you got to make plays, and Bate made some plays, made some big time plays, and I think that solidified it in my mind. Hey, you want to be a go-to receiver, and you really need to step up for your backup quarterback, and you did. That says an awful lot. With that said, from that point forward, it just always is a back and forth, crazy, nutty game in the John Harbaugh era, regardless of who the head coach is. Now, defensive coordinator wise, I know Jim Schwartz, he's probably sitting there feeling what, we got a chance. But I think that for their offense, they just don't score points. And I think they've scored 20 points only once so far this season. The Jets, technically, they won by a kickoff return and a punt return. So if I'm, LaJohntay Wester, if I am, Keaton Mitchell, in my mind, I'm this is gold. Let's do it, because these guys aren't going to be ready. And I just don't think Dylan Gabriel is going to be if J.J. McCarthy had 4 passes knocked down, Dylan Gabriel, he is not Drew Brees. That dude cannot throw the likes of Drew Brees. So if I'm Kyle Hamilton, I'm going to be trying to do my best, Deshaun Watson, block your ball, bat it up in the air, catching it, running in for a touchdown type of a play and groove. So, yeah, this is a tight game that you can't take for granted, but also one that protect your quarterback, Daniel Faalele, Voorhees. And then at the same time, you also run the ball effectively. Derrick Henry, Keaton Mitchell. Now that Keaton is, I think, sort of kind of out of John Harbaugh's not doghouse, but he was in the neither verse. He was neither a healthy guy, but he was healthy. But oh wait, he was active, but no, he wasn't active. Oh, he was really coming back from an injury that he already came back from. But the metrics said that he wasn't ready, but he was ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got to see that running game step up and make some big plays.
Yeah, well, I will say this about this game. There are a couple of things that are working in the Ravens' favor. One, Jameis Winston's not walking through that door. He's in New York about to go start for the Giants. He's not walking through that door.
Yes.
Eddie Jackson's not walking through that door either, who had the worst game I've ever seen, and I'm not even exaggerating, from a member of the secondary in a single game, that Cleveland game that we saw last season. It was horrendous. So those two things are working in the Ravens' favor. But we also know that it's kind of more so like Ravens Steelers, but you can kind of extend it to the entire AFC North. You got to throw the records out sometimes when it comes to these AFC North games where it doesn't matter. You know, sometimes the Browns play spoiler. I remember when the Ravens played spoiler twice to the Steelers with Ryan Mallett, who rest in peace. But Ryan Mallett, he was their quarterback, and they swept the Steelers with Ryan Mallett. Like, these AFC North games always have some weird voodoo magic going on. Like, I don't know what it is, but you can be the best team in the league, you can be the worst team in the league. When it's an AFC North battle, it seems like you're just kind of even. And again, that's more of a Pittsburgh thing, but from Cleveland, we've seen where the Ravens haven't been able to slam the door shut on them, or, you know, like, yeah, with the Hamilton dropped interception. Now, Dillon Gabriel it's kind of the same thing as last week, except Cleveland has a lot worse skill position players than Minnesota does. And I actually saw a stat on social media from Ravens Nation who said quarterbacks making their first 10 starts are now 0-13 when facing a Lamar Jackson-led team, which is more of a defensive stat for Baltimore. But, you know, apparently Lamar also has never lost against quarterbacks making one of their first 5 starts. Dillon Gabriel will be making his 6th start in this game on Sunday. It's kind of the same storylines as McCarthy. This Ravens defense can get into a groove, present unique looks. If they're getting the pressure they got on McCarthy, you know, the most, I believe, since November of last season, if I'm not mistaken, or right around then. So if that pass rush can continue to get pressure and force Dillon Gabriel to make throws, there's not a Justin Jefferson who the Ravens held in check, or a Jordan Addison who the Ravens held in check. You're talking about Jerry Jeudy, who apparently doesn't even think the Ravens secondary is good anyway. So, I mean, they got to show him again. And then, you know, this is Jerry Jeudy part 2. And then you also have, again, like, this offense, their passing offense runs through their tight ends. Cedric Tillman just got back. So Tillman was, if you remember in that week 2 game, he was on the receiving end of that 4th down play where the ball like went through Marlon Humphrey's arms into Tillman's hands for a touchdown in the end zone, which was just like, okay, of course that's going to happen. But it really, like, the Browns don't have a lot going for them in that department. I mean, right now, in terms of actual receptions on the season, Harold Fannin leads them. The rookie tight end leads them with 42 receptions, followed by Njoku at 29. So you have to focus the tight ends. The receivers are kind of the secondary guys here. And even it honestly goes to the running backs before it goes to the wide receivers, because Dylan Sampson, their running back, has 21 receptions. Quinshon Judkins has 14 receptions. Jerome Ford has 21 receptions. So this offense does not go through the wide receivers at all. It goes through the running backs and tight ends. So when you're talking about Kyle Hamilton and Malachi and Roquan and Teddy Buchanan and those safeties and linebackers, and if they line guys up out wide, the corners as well, those are the guys you got to focus on. So that's a really intriguing storyline to me. Can you stop those running backs and tight ends? Because receivers don't really mean a lot in that Cleveland offense.
I think David Njoku is going to be a Raven one day. I think it's going to be coming up pretty soon. I'm just hoping, because we got the same last name. We'd love to have, you know, that camaraderie to work with, you know. So, you know, I've always
wanted that jersey so bad.
I want that jersey so bad, Q. That's all, you know. And he's a fantastic football player. I think he's really good. And so, but yeah, you're right. I think the offense just flow through the tight ends, and if the Ravens can slow down those tight ends, it's going to be a very interesting day for Ravens fans, because the Ravens play right after that Bengals-Steelers game, where if the Steelers lose and the Ravens win, they're atop the AFC North with plenty of games left to play, 7 games to play left in the division. Let's get on to predictions. I know it's Wednesday. Not really a great time to do predictions because, Lamar Jackson's not practicing, still a lot of time. Things can happen, but we're not back here until after the game, so we're going to get the predictions on now. Q, what are your thoughts? Early predictions, feel free to change your mind throughout the week, but early on, how do you feel like this game's going to go?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know what I want to say score-wise just yet. Got to wait till Lamar and all that kind of shakes itself out. But I will say that defensively, they've played really well. I think special teams, Steve, your son has been balling. Boy, I tell you what, when it comes to the clutchness of the kick in key moments, especially when the offense stalls in the red zone, he's been on point. Loop, there it is. Loop, there it is. And hoping that it'll be a different type of challenge, though, when they go up to Cleveland. I know their stadium is still right there on Lake Erie. And that was one of the big reasons why they talked about drafting Joe Flacco and Justin Tucker is because of that weather. That weather is a weird weather and comes right off the lake. And so, yeah, I think this is one of those cases where they're going to be needing those critical points. Now, with that said, I just don't think Dylan Gabriel is strong enough to go 4 quarters with this Ravens defense, both physically and mentally. I think Zach Orr's defense, it shows different looks so well for a young player to process. And I think obviously JJ McCarthy is a heck of a lot better player as of now and up to this point than what we've seen from Dylan Gabriel. I'm going with getting these guys back to 500. Like the Ravens, this is their game. Like figure out a way to stop the run. I think CJ Okoye and company, they've certainly stepped up big time. I think that Trenton Simpson has kind of found his role as far as just a weak side rush guy that can kind of run down the line of scrimmage and be a strong run support kind of guy. What can you say with the jack of all trades? I mean, dude is just crushing it. The ultimate chess piece. Like, come on, he just does what he does. K-Ham, and honestly, Buchanan and Roquan, they still get caught up in blocks, but they've been producing. So the offense is the only thing that really I kind of like scratching my head on because I think the offense has been churning and doing well and doing its thing. They did enough to win against the Vikings, but they got to do more, and we'll see what it looks like with Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, this should be a game the Ravens win. I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't. Again, nothing's impossible, like I said earlier in the show. But again, you kind of have to have some buffer sometimes for these AFC North games. Now, we saw last time the Ravens did put up 40+ on them. Wouldn't be shocked if that were the case again, although you do have to look, Jim Schwartz in that defense with Myles Garrett, et cetera, like, no joke of a defense. They're really good. The problem is, for them, the Ravens offense is also very good. But I just want to see what it looks like up front. I do, like Myles Garrett, it's inevitable. He's going to get his, especially against what we've seen this offensive line look like. They have Mason Graham and, they've invested in that group. So that's going to be the key to me. Do I think that Lamar will be able to escape out of some of that, make some stuff happen? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But I think more so, at this point, I'm just kind of expecting the defense to play a really solid game here. Like, I'm encouraged by the pass rush. I would hope that they can continue that trend because they're going to need to, even without some key players like a Bateman, who's probably not going to play, Marlon, who's not going to play. Like, they're still relatively healthy outside of your guys on injured reserve. Draymond Jones has another week in this defense now. I think it sets up nicely for Baltimore, especially because of the quarterback component. The Ravens aren't going to be playing a lot of, great quarterbacks. Name for, Joe's playing great. And which Joe are they going to get even for these Bengals games? Who knows? But, you're playing guys like Dylan Gabriel, Justin Fields / Tyrod Taylor. Like, these should be games that you win. And not because your offense beats them in a shootout, but because your offense puts up points and your defense gets the job done. So the Ravens have momentum. They're a big momentum team. I think they'll continue that against Cleveland. And kind of interesting, couple of things. I saw Emil put it in the chat that they play at 425, which is so weird to me. I don't know why this is a 425 game, but it is. So I don't know. I don't know the appeal of this game for the NFL when they were making the schedule, but I guess here we are. And also the fact that they will be finished with Cleveland before they play Cincinnati or Pittsburgh once in their AFC North journey. So that's another interesting. They've had a couple of interesting AFC North quirks in their schedule. Remember that Cleveland thing they had a couple of years ago while Pittsburgh had the bye? Like they've had a couple of weird things like that. So a couple of interesting things there, but I still expect the Ravens to win.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think the Ravens get the job done here. I'm predicting the blowout. I think it's going to be 41-10. I'm putting the score out there now on a Wednesday if Lamar plays, which I think he will. I think he'll play. Yeah, but I think that defense is going to be too much for Dylan Gabriel. I think we'll see Shedeur Sanders in this game too. That's my prediction for this.
Dre Dog saying that they thought that the NFL probably thought Sanders was going to play.
Yep. That's probably what it was with the scheduling there. So we'll see. I think we need to get Tyler Loop on to the show. We got Steve Loop here. Steve, get your son on here. We get Nick Moore. We get the whole crew
That's
together.
what we should really do. We should really have all three of them on at the same time. We should get Nick, Tyler, and Jordan on and have them just take the reins and go. That should be that'd be sick.
Make it work, Kevin. Get on the phone with Nick, and I'll get on the lines and try and get Tyler Loop.
All right,
and
let's
Steve.
go. All right, let's
you
get
work
it.
your magic,
Let's get
Steve
it.
Loop, and we'll get it going. That'd be very interesting, especially with this contest. Q, you mentioned it. Kicking could be a factor here, and the wind is swirling at this time of year, and Tyler Loop could be the hero in this contest. So very interesting to see. Well, this is going to do it for here at the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Appreciate you guys for joining us here. We'll see you after the Ravens-Browns game. Hopefully the Ravens are at 500, and we're talking words like playoffs and Super Bowl. Steve Loop says 5-5, guaranteed. I like it. I like it a lot. So let's get it done. Hopefully the Ravens take care of business. They will take care of business, and we'll be back here on Sunday to talk all about it here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show.